back to our podcast,
Coffee and Bible Time.
And I am Taylor.
And I'm Ashley.
And we're so excited to be here. This is our second podcast in our series, and we are just having fun with it.
Yeah, we're hoping you guys are enjoying it as much as we are. We love doing this.
Yeah, we do. We had a second wind with our channel with this Coffee and Bible Time podcast.
Yeah, it's giving us a lot of joy, and we're really excited just to be chatting with you guys. Our heart's intention and our heart's desire is that you guys would see Christ through us. So obviously you can't see us, but I mean the YouTube fam can. But yeah, just that you would, see Christ and
be encouraged.
We're not perfect at all.
You'll probably figure that out.
Obviously, we're human beings, so praise the Lord for His grace.
So today's topic is a little bit interesting, and the reason why it's interesting is because A, it's controversial in the Christian realm, and B, it's swept the nation, I'd say, and it is the Enneagram.
It's totally taken over the Myers-Briggs.
Oh yeah, Myers-Briggs who? Sorry if you guys still love that. Love the thing, but Myers-Briggs who?
And today we're going to be talking about the Enneagram. For those of you who are skeptics of it, I actually have been a skeptic of it before. And, Taylor kind of just jumped right in. She was never really a skeptic. But there's people like that too. So, I mean, if you're a skeptic of the Enneagram, I would just say hold off the judgments, hold off the initial backlash towards this podcast, towards this video, and, just listen with an open heart. That's what I would suggest as a former skeptic.
And something else to keep in mind is to not make it your Bible and to not look to it for your every needs like you would look to Jesus for.
Yeah, and I'll be talking about that a little more.
Okay. So what would you like to start off with, Ash?
Oh, I'm starting today. I feel honored. So I will start with, oh, sorry, you don't like that noise.
You know what I should actually say is maybe I should read to them what the Enneagram is. I put this down.
Oh, yeah. You know what? We have to start with that. For those of you who don't know what the Enneagram is, here's what the Enneagram is.
Okay. So the Enneagram is a system of personality typing that describes patterns and how people conceptualize the world and manage their emotions. It has 9 basic types, and it can help you identify your hidden strength. Quote, "At its core, the Enneagram helps us to see ourselves at a deeper, more objective level and can be of invaluable assistance on our path to self-knowledge." End quote. That was all quoted from the internet. But yeah, that's the kind of definition I found. It's very scientific-y sounding.
Yeah, I see it as a tool to understand yourself better, to understand other people better, and it's a wonderful tool, and I think it can really help us. And that's what we're going to be getting into today.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm just going to start with my journey. I'm Ashley, and I started as a skeptic of the Enneagram because my sister told me about it, and she's like, oh my gosh, the Enneagram, this, that, and I was like, literally my personality type is I am not gonna hold on to this if it ain't true, and I'm going to research and I'm going to see if this is legit. And honestly, I just blew it off, but then you just kept talking to me more and more.
Yeah, it's because I thought I found her number, and I was like, this is all, I have all these juicy tidbits about you. I was like, listen, Ashley, you have to understand, I know why you do this now. Oh, I know why you do. Okay, Ashley just hit, if the podcasters are listening and it sounds like an avalanche.
We can cut that out.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll just cut that out.
Okay. It's at 4 minutes and 18 seconds. What was I even saying? And it's because I kept pestering her. I was like, you need to listen to this Enneagram. It's so interesting. It helps you learn why you do all these things that you do. And everybody, all the different 9 types have different reasons why they do what they do. And for her number, I was reading through it and I was like, oh my gosh, I totally found my sister. And I was trying to tell her. And when I was reading it, I was thinking I was being encouraging, but she was actually getting really offended. Every time I read it to her, it was she was like, please stop. You don't know who I am. This doesn't define me. And looking back, I didn't understand where she was coming from, but now that I feel like it's blown up a lot, I can see why people get offended, because it does kind of sound like you're labeling someone and putting them into a box.
Yeah. And it's saying, okay, there's only 9 types of people out there. Well, at least this is what I saw it as. There's only 9 types of people out there, and if you have to fit into this mold. And I'm like, we're all different, but within each number, there's
27 subtypes.
Yeah, and within each number, there's all these different types. So I'm a 1 on the Enneagram. Ashley, I'm a 1, and I've met so many different ones, and a lot of us are very different. A lot of us have different personality types. Some are introverts, some are extroverts. Some are homebodies, some are outgoing. So it's not necessarily saying you're this one person and you have to be this person because this is who you are.
But you can't look at somebody else, and if they're the same number as you, think to yourself, oh my gosh, I'm like that person? That can't be me. Or even if you're reading it, you read all these things, and something that's interesting about the Enneagram is it lists a lot of characteristics that might be your downfall or might be reasons why you aren't reaching your goals or doing what you're doing, because it's what you naturally tend to do. And it can be discouraging when you read it, and it can feel like, why am I even reading into this? It's just depressing. It's just saying I'm an anxious person, or it's just saying that I'm a control freak, or it's just saying that
I'm a lazy person.
I'm a lazy person, exactly. So we just wanted to kind of go on here to talk about what Enneagram numbers we have and how it changed our relationships as sisters.
Yeah, so let me keep going with my story. So I used to be skeptical, but then I started reading up on my number, and I just kind of realized that it was a lot like me. And
number 1.
I'm number 1 on the Enneagram, which is the perfectionist or the reformer. So I have this inner compass within me that wants to be perfect, and I beat myself up when I'm not perfect and when I mess up, and I'm my harshest critic. But I still was somewhat of a skeptic, and then me and my sister went through a really, really, really rough patch, and it was when I just couldn't figure out why my sister was doing the things she was doing, and it really frustrated me because I wanted her to be exactly like me, exactly like my mold. I wanted her to be as much of a go-getter as I was. I wanted her to work as hard as I was working, and honestly, I overdo everything, and so to expect that from her was not right.
She has a very hard time resting, even today.
And so anyways, I read on the Enneagram what a relationship between a 1 and a 9 is, and my sister was a 9. Well, we're not sure if she's a 9 anymore, but anyways, I read our relationship, and my eyes were opened, and I was like, are you kidding me? This is why we fight so much. It helped me to realize that I need to accept our differences rather than trying to change Taylor to be like me, because we're different people, and that's okay. And how I see the Enneagram is it's a great tool. And I know it's a great tool because of how much it helped me and Taylor in our life. But I think where things can tend to go wrong for a Christian with the Enneagram is when or for anybody, not just a Christian, but it can tend to go wrong when we see it as our identity. When it starts to become like our identity, our everything, like we define ourselves by this number. And it becomes, also I've heard the excuse, and I've done the excuse, well, that's just who I am, so I'm not going to change. When the reality is that we're all trying as Christians to become more Christ-like and to become more like Jesus. And so if there's parts of me that aren't lining up with who Jesus is and who he was, a selfless man of love and of kindness and all those things, if my personality, my character is weaving away from Christ-likeness, I can't just make the excuse, I'm a 1, so, that's just who I am.
So I just, I struggle with overworking, and so it's okay if I don't rest because that's just who I am. That's not where you want to go with it. It's actually like, here are some of your downfalls.
Your strengths and weaknesses.
Your strengths and weaknesses. Now that you know what your weaknesses are, you're able to work on them. And so kind of interestingly enough, as Ashley was talking about, how when we read the differences, like how 1s and 9s interact, which I'll read that to you right now. She kind of paused and said, well, we don't know if she's a 9 now. And I guess the reason why we say that is because when I first found out about the Enneagram, I related so much to a 9. When I read the 9, I was like, this is completely who I am. I was just, everything I read about it was, I could relate to, because I thought that peace was my motivation. I wanted, everything was just related to
Just
having inner peace.
Tell them what a 9 is. A 9 is someone whose motivation
peace.
is
Yeah, their peace. Yeah, 9's motivation is peace. And you know what? They're called the mediator. Basically, they don't like conflict, and they're not extremely motivated. Some 9s I know are very motivated, but that's just because that's how they feel peace the most. It's just wherever you feel peace the most. And so when I was doing that, I thought that was totally who I am. I was a people pleaser, because I didn't want any conflict to arise. I didn't want to be, I wanted to be whatever anybody else wanted me to be, because I felt like that's how I kept the peace and that's how I kept relationships going.
But at home, that's not how you are.
No, I was different at home, but I wasn't
not
looking for conflict. I wasn't a completely different person. But I'm just saying, once I started going to a counselor, which I thought was a very eye-opening experience. It teaches you a lot of self-love, and it teaches you to be kinder towards yourself, and it makes you realize how much you are
beating yourself
up. You're just a lot in your head. You think all these people are thinking different things about you. You're mind reading. And then you just realize that's not how it is. Anyways, going through counseling, I learned a lot about how to just accept myself for who I am. And so once I did that, I kind of feel like I realized, I felt like I was being less like a 9 and more like a 6. And now me being I don't want to say I identify as a 6. It sounds so weird. But basically now, I kind of do identify as a 6. I think I'm a 6 with a lot of 9 tendencies, and that's because if you know the Enneagram, if you're a 6, you go to 9 when you're in times of, it's either stress or healthiness, I can't remember.
Unhealth, yeah, when you're not your best. And which makes sense why we thought you were 9, because you were at a spot in your life that wasn't your best.
But I don't know that yet. I don't know if it's best or not best.
Oh.
See, but I'm just saying.
Oh, okay.
Now I do see myself as a 6, and I got confused because to me a 9's motivation was peace, and a 6's motivation is security. And I think I got the two mixed up a little bit. They're very similar, and now that I've read more into it, I'm like, okay, I do things a lot more for security reasons and not for peace. But anyways, I think that the 9 part still applies to us. Do you want me to read it? Hopefully you guys find this interesting.
This is a relationship between a 1 and a 9. And here's the thing. If you guys have relationships, even love relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, brother, sister, mom and sibling. Yeah, it literally can be any relationship. You can look up what is their number and what's your number by taking the test. And then you can look up how your numbers interact. And I would suggest this if you're having relationship problems, because it might help you. Obviously, first and foremost, turn to the Lord and pray. But this is a tool that can be helpful. Always seek the Lord first.
Should I read a 1 and a 6, or should I read a 1 and a 9?
Well, have we ever read the 1 and the 6?
No, but should we? Or should I do 1 and a 9?
I don't know.
Here's the thing. You know what? This is the real test. Let's just see if a 1 and a 6 goes together, because I'm still confused whether I'm a 6 or a 9. So yeah, I think we're going to read the 1 and a 6, and then, push comes to shove, we'll read the 1 and the 9.
Yes.
Okay, so you just listen and tell me what you think.
Okay.
So a 1 is called the perfectionist, and the 6 is called the loyal skeptics. So here we go. Perfectionists and loyal skeptics often work synergistically in the pursuit of making a better world and correcting injustice. They are sensitive to each other and dedicated, but perfectionists can feel criticized and dig in with their one right way stance when the loyal skeptics question or doubt or seem inconsistent. A cycle of escalating conflict and blame can result when the perfectionist becomes more critical and angry, feeling that nothing can make the loyal skeptic secure and certain. In turn, the loyal skeptic can question the perfectionist to the point of becoming accusationary and mistrusting, feeling that nothing can satisfy the perfectionist's one right way of being. All of this can lead to pain and even disruption or end to the relationship. I don't know how I feel about that. Do you want me to read the 9?
Yeah.
Okay, let me read the 9.
I do feel like from that, a lot of times I think there's only one right way to do things.
Yes.
And it's hard for me to relinquish control. But I don't know if that's you.
Right. See, also a characteristic of a 6 is they tend to be more anxious. I feel like I am anxious, but I'm not sure if I'm always anxious. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And when a 9 goes to a place of unhealthiness, they actually go to a 6. So I could be a 9. Let's just read the 9. Okay. So the 9's called the mediator. Take that into consideration. Perfectionists and mediators often join together in attending to detail and leading an orderly, steady life. Perfectionists support mediators' development, and mediators encourage perfectionists to be more accepting. Mediators, however, can feel criticized and prodded instead of encouraged by perfectionists. As a result, mediators may end up feeling inferior. In attempting to please, they over-accommodate and build up stubborn resistance that annoys and frustrates perfectionists.
That is you.
A cycle of escalating conflict can follow, leading to further prodding of the mediator, which creates a power struggle. The two types can become stuck, internally seething, punctuated with angry outbursts. This pattern is compounded since both types have difficulty knowing their real needs and desires. Over time, the relationship can deteriorate to extinction.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I think the 1 and the 9 are more like us. And that really helped me realize that I need to stop poking and prodding you, and you will just do what you want when you want.
And here's the thing. To a 1, that the quote-unquote poking and prodding to them is encouragement. Like, they're trying to encourage you to be the best self you can be, and to, they're trying to motivate you. But to a 9, it's like, it becomes this sort of feeling of, okay, I need to do all these things because I'm not good enough. You feel inferior because you can never live up to the same work ethic and standard that a 1 holds for themselves. Because 1s hold the highest standards on themselves. And so whatever they're pushing onto you or prodding onto you isn't even comparable to what standard they put on themselves.
Yeah. And anytime I try to get you to do something, it's because I've already put that on myself and tried to accomplish it. And I don't want to see you fail. I don't want to see you make the same mistakes I've made. So I really try to help you. But that's the thing in life, is that we each have to make our own mistakes in order to grow. I mean, it can be avoided by someone helping you, but a lot of times you learn the most by doing it your own way, failing and then relearning, or maybe not failing. Maybe you did it your way, and your way was, everyone has a different way, or I don't know. It depends on what the situation is.
Yeah.
But I think that 1s think one way is right, and they follow that with their whole heart.
And in a way, I think that's a form of stubbornness, but I feel like 9s just have a tendency to be stubborn in general. I think it talks about that in the Enneagram. And I know that usually when we get in conflicts, usually something that comes up is, oh my gosh, you're so stubborn. Like, I can't even talk to you right now because you're not seeing the way I see. And usually that's directed towards me, and it can be true.
Yeah, we're both stubborn. I think we really are both stubborn. So it's something we have to work on.
Yeah, and I think, you know what? That was good talking about us, but something that I wanted to also talk about was other numbers, because some of our listeners probably, actually the majority of them probably aren't 1s or 9s. Oh, and or 6s. So if you're another number, I kind of thought it would be fun to talk about, like, our friends, like some of our best friends and what numbers they are.
Yeah. So I'm a 1 wing 2. We haven't talked about 2, but my roommate Molly is a 2.
This is Ashley.
And she is the most genuine, kind, sweethearted girl I've ever met. I always tell her, you have such a pure heart. She's always thinking about other people.
Very selfless.
Always. She's always selflessly laying down her life for others. And I look at her and I'm like, I want to be like that because I see Jesus through her so much. One downside to being a 2 is that you never take care of yourself. And so that was one thing I did notice with Molly was sometimes I had to tell her, like, you need to take care of yourself. You need to spend this time for you. And that is not wrong. It is not wrong to take care of yourself. And so I even have to tell myself that too because I'm a wing 2.
And you know what? One of my friends also was a wing 2, and something that I noticed is that she would go along with a lot of things. It's hard to sometimes tell what they really want because they just want other people to be happy.
They want to make other people happy.
They want to make other people happy, and they want to keep their relationship going. But my encouragement to 2s, which maybe not all 2s are like this, but is to try to open up more about what you want and to take time to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Any other numbers?
Yeah, any other number 3.
Our mom is a 3.
Yeah, our mom is a 3. One of my best friends, I think, is a 3. Olivia, if you're listening to this, love you, girl. She introduced me to podcasts. But yeah, 3s, you know, they are achievers. They are success-driven.
They really, really care about what people think about them.
Yes, they do. And you know what? Whether or not it's subconscious or if they realize it, it's just something that they care about. And
which isn't a bad thing.
No, not a bad thing. I think sometimes if it doesn't go in check, then it can be hard. Another thing to know about a 3 is that they are achievers. Definitely. I think looking at our mom, she accomplishes so much in a day. It's crazy. She works a full-time job, and then on top of that, she works for Coffee and Bible Time as a mentor mama.
She takes care of 5 pets.
Wait.
4. 1 died. Sorry, I didn't mean to be grim.
4 pets, and she's a mother, and she's a wife, and she has a life.
She does so much at church.
She's a mom's group, and so she's also, here's some other things she is. She's a motivator. She is a role model. She's really good at at helping mediate other things, like communicating and things like that. I don't know if all 3s are like that. Maybe you just learn to do that as a mother, but yeah. So a 3's basic fear is of being worthless, and their basic desire is to feel valuable and worthwhile. So their key motivations: they want to be affirmed, they want to be distinguished, they want to distinguish themselves from others. They want to have attention, they want to be admired, and they want to impress others.
One time I was in a clock shop with my mom in Germany, and I was really loud and went, oh my gosh, that's the biggest clock I've ever seen. Or I said it really loud, apparently, because sometimes I can be extremely loud and obnoxious. But my mom just got so mad at me for doing that. Not so mad. That sounds
it wasn't mad.
Like
she was just like, she was very aware of her surroundings and the way that our family appeared to other people, and was like, keep your voice down. We don't want to be mad. She's just like very aware of her surroundings.
She wasn't mad. I perceived it as her being mad because it really hurt my feelings and shot me down that I just couldn't even be myself around her. And I mean, I'm really blowing the situation out of the waters and out of proportion.
But that's how you felt in the moment.
That's how I felt in the moment. And that just shows that we're all human beings, and certain things that someone might do might not intentionally, they probably aren't intentionally trying to hurt your feelings, but it hurts.
Right. It's it's just people are motivated by their own desires. Like, she was aware of her surroundings. When Ashley wants to make me more perfect, then sometimes it hurts me and it makes me feel inferior, but it's only out of love that she's doing what she's doing.
Yeah, and then sometimes when
I'm like, come on, like, let's relax, or let's do this, you get frustrated. You're like, no, we have all these things we need to do. And,
it just goes anyway, any relationship, and we need to be communicating with each other. I'd encourage you guys to communicate with your friends, communicate with your significant other, communicate with your parents, talk to each other about what motivates you, why do you do what you do, and explain to each other just what hurts, like when me and Taylor, like, Taylor, what do I do that hurts you? Or the other way around, what do you do that hurts me? And when we communicate about these things, when we tell each other, it can only get better from there, because then we know.
Yep.
And so, yeah.
Moving down the line, though, 4s. We know a 4. Our brother is a 4. I
didn't know that.
I think that my brother's a 4. I also knew someone growing up who was a 4, and it's interesting, as a kid, you know, you are friends with these people, you don't know what their Enneagram number is, and it doesn't even hit you, like, why they do what you do until you read the Enneagram, and you're reading a different personality type, and you're like, holy cow, that person is that number, and you just know, like, right away.
I want to hear.
Yeah, I feel like 4s are one of the easier types to kind of realize because they're so unique. So a 4 is the individualist, also known as the melancholic, the tragic victim, the special one, the artist. So in a nutshell, their basic fear is that they have no identity or personal significance, and their basic desire is to find themselves in their significance or to create an identity. So their key motivations, they want to express themselves in their individuality, they want to create and surround themselves with beauty, they want to maintain certain moods and feelings, they want to withdraw to protect their self-image, they want to take care of emotional needs before attending to anything else, and they tend to attract a rescuer.
And just gonna edit this and be like, oh wow.
Yeah. I mean, seriously though, like, all these Enneagram types are really cool, and you read that and it does make sense, because I'd say for the 4s that I know, they tend to be withdrawn, definitely, and they will tend to aid to their emotional need before they go out and, you know, cater themselves to the world. I.e. a 2 might have so many emotional needs they need to be meeting for themselves, but they choose to put all these other people before themselves and be the best friend they can be, because that's just their core motivation. Whereas for 4, they're trying, I mean, I could be wrong because I'm not a 4, but they're trying to find a sense of self-identity, and they also tend to be more withdrawn in general. So I feel like, I don't know, everybody does something different.
But what about the extroverted 4?
I have not met an extroverted 4.
Yeah, I'm just
And you know
curious.
what? There's also a lot of 4s are extrovert. I mean, why am I saying a lot of 4s? I only know 2. I know probably 3. But, you know, when you're kids, you tend to be more extroverted. And then I feel like when you get older, you can kind of start to see what people's numbers are more, because, you know, they start to gain more of their own personality and individuality apart from their surroundings and their parents. So a 5 is the investigator, the thinker, the innovator, the observer, the specialist, the expert.
I know quite a few 5s, I think.
Yeah, I know a 5. What would you say about some of the 5s that you know? What did you notice their tendencies?
Well, I'm trying to think. One of my friends, Mackenzie, I think, is a 5.
Oh, really?
She
Let me
said
read
she
it.
was a 5. Yeah, read it a little
Okay,
bit.
basic fear of being useless, helpless, or incapable. Basic desire is to be capable and competent. Their key motivations, they want to possess knowledge, to understand their environment, to have everything figured out as a way of defending themselves from the threats of their environment.
Yeah.
Their leadership style, they lead by research, deliberation, and planning.
So some of the 5s I know are very intellectual.
Yes, very intellectual.
Um,
I would completely agree with you on that.
Yeah.
My friend that I know that's a type 4 is a bookworm. A 5 is, she's a bookworm. She loves reading. She tends to go through phases where she'll focus on one topic and like gain all of the information she knows about that one topic.
Does she
and then she'll move on.
recognize she's a 5?
Yes, she does. And yeah, I mean, interesting. I mean, I don't have a lot to say.
Yeah, I don't know 5s very well because I'm trying to think about the 5s in my life, but just very intellectual, very wants to know a lot.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that.
I would like to get to know more about it.
Okay, so a 7, the enthusiast, also known as the multitasker, the wonder kind, the connoisseur, and the energizer. Their basic fear is of being deprived and in pain, and their basic desire is to be satisfied and content, to have their needs fulfilled. Key motivations: they want to maintain their freedom and happiness, to avoid missing out on worthwhile experiences, to keep themselves excited and occupied, and to avoid and discharge pain. So I know a 7. I think I know 1 7.
Do I know any 7s?
Well, I think here's what I've noticed about 7s is that they are like very positive people to be around. At least, I mean, I don't live with any 7s, but they're pretty positive. They keep upbeat. They like to do things. I feel like something I notice is they like to
These aren't the party
always
people,
be
right?
stimulated. Yeah, they
Oh, 7s are the party
they're
people?
kind of,
I thought that was the 8.
I mean, not party. They're like the life of the party, kind
I
of.
thought that was 8.
No, 8s are. We'll go through an 8.
As you can tell, folks, I am not an Enneagram expert.
But I would say they do experience FOMO. Like,
So is Angie a 7?
I
Sorry, guys,
think-
I'm just trying to figure out what
yeah, I
a
think
7
that
is.
Angie's a 7. I think Sophie's a 7.
Oh, so 7s are outgoing and
Well, that's
life of the party.
right. I mean, see, we don't know anything about the Enneagram. There could be an introverted 7. I don't know.
We don't know anything about the Enneagram.
Did I say that?
We don't know enough of these people, and we haven't
I don't-
studied enough of the numbers.
Right, and I don't want to go as far as to make generalizations and make someone who's listening maybe feel like they're being misrepresented. And this should just be a disclaimer right now. We are not experts. But from what I know, I think that 7s do tend to like to keep the happy feeling alive.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then an 8 is the challenger.
I know 8s.
Leader, protector, provider, entrepreneur, rock. Their basic fear is of being harmed and controlled by others, and their basic desire is to protect themselves or to be in control of their own life and destiny. Their key motivations: they want to be self-reliant, to improve their strength and resist weakness, to be important in their world, to dominate the environment, and to stay in control of their situation.
I know 8s, and this explains very well the 8s I know.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
You don't, it sounds like you have a little bit.
I can tend to butt heads with 8s because 1s are
Ones
similar.
and 8s are very strong-willed, I think.
Strong-willed.
You know what you
and-
want, and you like control.
Yes. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I think the 8s that I tend to notice are...
I also noticed that a lot of 8s are sarcastic. I don't know if that's
that's
probably not a thing, but sarcasm can tend to.
that's just a personal thing.
That's
for
a
you.
personal thing. It gets under my skin. So.
But from the 8s that you know, they tend to be sarcastic. I would say the 8s that I know, I have a lot of friends who are 8s, and I think as a 9, we go well together in the sense that I'm just very more laid back, and they take charge more. And from the 8s friends that I had, like, they kind of like stuck up for me, and they would not take care of me, but just like be more of
They're willing to take control. They want to. So
Yeah,
they're
they're
going to
willing-
carry you. They're going to take charge. They're going to be
Yes.
the leaders, and you can relax and sit back knowing that and having peace that they're going to be in control.
And you know what? It does change depending on what wing you have.
Okay, an 8 is called the challenger. That's why a lot of 8s I know are sarcastic. They like to challenge you, right?
Well, I mean, sometimes sarcasm can be can be a little bit of a challenge, but I'd say also maybe debating.
yeah.
They aren't afraid to get in a little debate with you because they're challengers. Wow, I've never burped on a podcast, but here I am. So yeah, I think we've kind of been through all the Enneagram numbers because Ashley and I are the first and the last.
Yeah. And we don't want to offend anybody. We don't want to make you feel like this is who you are. Don't feel like you have to be boxed into the number or what we said about the numbers. I would just say take it with a grain of salt. This is not the Bible. This is not your everything. This is not our identity. This is simply a tool to help us understand why we do things and how can we become better people. And so I think that the title of this podcast is something about
Should Christians use the Enneagram?
should Christians use the Enneagram? And to pull that full circle, I do not think it's wrong for a Christian to use the Enneagram in a right way. in a God-honoring way, to use it as a tool to help you
become more like Jesus.
Become more like Christ. And yes, of course, I can see why it can be used in ways that are not God-honoring. But I would just say, for those of you who want to use it in a God-honoring way, go for it. If you're very skeptical and you want to write 5 million comments about how we are Satanists for using the Enneagram, I would say hold back on that, because we don't want to be legalistic Christians who hate on each other and who want to divide each other. Christians are supposed to stand together and stand in unity. And so I think that if you disagree, of course, go ahead, disagree. You can think what you want. And I would just say that please be loving and peaceful in the comments.
And there's a world of people out there that are using the Enneagram to help them become a more godly person.
Yeah.
If I could recommend a book,
there's Christian Enneagram books that are so helpful.
And this isn't like astrology, it's not like they're pulling it out of their buttocks. It's just like you read it and you can relate. It's just like the Myers-Briggs. You take a personality test and your results are curated based off of the answers that you put. So it's not like you're looking at Saturn and saying, oh, that's right, I knew that I was going to be constipated today. Just things like that. But also, if I could recommend a book for you guys, Mirror to the Soul. I'm not sure who the author is. I did read that a while back. It's a Christian Enneagram book. I would recommend that. But thank you guys so much for listening. This was a long-winded episode. But we'll see you in our next video podcast.
Bye, guys.